Hello, I'm Chipicon, and this is the Changing Times, Changing World show, which we are talking about maybe giving the name otherworldly, but several people have suggested reasons why it shouldn't be otherworldly. Well, other people really like the term otherworldly, as we try and come up with something that sounds better than the CTCW Wednesday show. And the other thing, to be honest, is I have a head cold, which you may be able to tell from the sound. So I'm thinking more slowly than usual. I hope I speak slowly enough so my mouth can catch up to my brain. So tonight's show is going to be me asking anybody who shows up tonight, what do you want from the conference? What do you want from the show? I mean, I've already figured out that people really like celebrity guests. We had twice as many people as usual when Morgan Daimler came on. But that's, and I've got a couple people I'm trying to reach out to. Dana Corby, for instance, wonderful lady, is interested, but she can't figure out how to get onto Zoom.
Oh.
Some eccentricity with her computer, I think. And I don't know. I have been in the pagan community since the late 60s, early 70s. And how many of you may have heard the Gwydian's Songs of the Old Religion? Wonderful, great music. And I think the man was killed in the mid 70s. But she was the female voice in the background. So I was like, oh my God, fangirl. And she's done some other things. She's written some lovely books. I try and get her. Let's see if I can talk Diana Paxson to coming on and talking about Say and some of the things, projects she's working with. We'd like to get more talking in the thing is that I keep asking people, what do you want? I know personally from doing classes that I am very eager to do any class when I know that people have asked for that subject. I will research anything. People asked me once, to say, well, our theme is a great library of Alexandria. Fine, I'll research the heck out of it and come and I will do a talk on it. Whatever, you just tell me you want to hear about something, and learning stuff and telling that, I'll do that. So if we can talk, we can tell our speakers, you've been asked for, you've been requested, this subject has been requested. They'll be a lot more eager to show up either for the show or the conference. Now, let me do a quick review of the conference. This year, because of, now the vaccines are coming out, that's good, but it takes a while to get up to the 70 to 80% they want before they can fully open up again. And the planning committee decided that is not going to be secure until probably the fall. And are we going to be ready in November to go into a hotel again? Let's do another virtual conference. And I know we're all sick of sitting in front of our computers and going to another Zoom conference, Zoom meeting. But at the same time, when we're doing it virtually, and I think when we go back to the hotels, we're going to continue having, I expect, a virtual component, because that means people from the West Coast, people from Florida, this is basically a New England thing, and that people are willing to come in from Michigan, come up from Maryland, is amazing. I mean, a lot of people have a higher tolerance for traveling than I do, but It may have something to do with having a 20-year-old butt rather than a 70-year-old butt. But being able to reach presumably anywhere in the world means that we're going to be doing the Facebook we're going to be not Facebook. We're going to be doing virtual. We're going to be doing computer conference this year anyway. Next year, it'd be nice to get back into a hotel. There is something wonderful about being to go to a class where you have somebody that you can show them energy. You can say, here is an energy form I have created. Here is a thing that we're doing together, and you can work on them. I know that Lois Fitzpatrick has done some wonderful crafts activities. Now, it doesn't sound too esoteric, but the ability to make your own robes or cards or books or rune sticks or whatever is a wonderful thing. When Merida Orr came and showed people and gave samples of herbal medication, that was it. When we started Changing Times, Changing Worlds, we decided we wanted to get into more advanced classes and to get a lot of hands-on how-to. Theory is a lovely thing to learn out of books, but it's a lot more important to get people who have been there, done that, and know what kind of stupid mistakes you can make and screw yourself up over one little thing that nobody ever bothered to tell you. So this year it's going to be November 8th through the 14th, being all virtual. We're going to do it as we did last year, with probably 3 classes, Monday through Friday, and then a full day slate on Saturday and Sunday, with breakout rooms so people can discuss things. We'll have panels and workshops. I love panels. My concept of a panel is not a couple of experts up in front of the room behind a table, but being in somebody's house, in their living room or around the kitchen table, and having a really great discussion with people who know what they're talking about and where everybody else can ask questions. That's what our panels are aiming at. But when we went into this, Jane and I knew that the conference was going to change and evolve. And any organization changes and evolves. And, the SCA, which we're in, is different in 2020, 21 than it was when we joined in the 70s. Things are a lot different. And if we get bigger, for instance, virtual wasn't something we were going to be doing when we started. If we can get 500 to 1,000 people, which other conferences have done, it will change the nature of what we're doing. But we came into this knowing that we would evolve into what people want. With this current chaos, we have shrunk. We are now down under 100 people. Our very first conference was 128, so we've shrunk, but we expect to grow again. So we've got a lot of core people now, and so still pretty close to our original concept. But I don't think there's a chance in the world that we will not change when the people start coming, when we have 200, when we have 300, when we have 500, when we have 1,000. Those people are going to be coming for different reasons, and they're going to have different things that they want. And I figure Fine, we can do that. One of the things that has handicapped us is that we aren't specializing. My position is that everybody is psychic. The cumbersome name, changing times, changing worlds. You know, Ethericon was taken, Ecumenicon was taken, Akashicon was taken, Convocation was taken, Pantheacon was taken. You know, the idea, I wanted to call it the shit is real con, but we figured that might bother somebody. Everybody is psychic. And wouldn't it be nice if a generation from now, the world just simply accepted the existence of our ability to change the energy of the world and have that energy change the physical world? Gosh, that would be nice if you didn't have to pretend you didn't believe in it in public, and then if they seemed amenable, then you could be a little bit more honest. So let me just check and see on the Facebook. Is there any questions on the Facebook? Let's see. I'd love to learn more about death and grief and mourning rituals. Oh yeah, we should do that. This has been a popular subject. We've had a lot of we've had a lot of classes and panels on that over the years. We haven't had, and I don't think we had any last year, but last year we were really cut down. Let me copy that into my notes so that we can look for that in the, because yeah, death is one of those things that we can, you know, normal literature can talk about what happens right up to the point of death, but you have to get spiritual. You have to get into spirituality and the occult before you can talk about afterwards. Today, I see on the news that Rush Limbaugh has died. And a lot of people are saying, ding dong, the witch is dead, or whatever. Apparently, one of the vile things he used to do was read obituaries of gay people and then play horns, and it's like, I'm just picture him waking up dead in the afterlife and being confronted with his oversoul and his other helpers with, do you realize what you did, you jackass? Because as most representations of the afterlife suggest, they are loving and supportive. They are not going to be doing the, apparently that's safe for the gods dealing with us here on earth. But they, he's gonna, if there's hell, the agony of hell may be being given awareness of the harm you have caused. And see, that's the kind of discussion. Has anybody else got anything that they might be interested in saying on death and their theories about what happens after we're dead? I know that some of the mediums I've talked to have made the point that when they contact the dead, that your Aunt Sadie is not any more spiritual or any more pleasant after she died than when she was alive. So, so you can't expect somebody to change as if by magic. You're not going to suddenly become your higher self when you wake up dead. But I think you do have other perspective. You have the ability to see the earth in a way that you don't necessarily have when you're still alive. certainly I think that some of the more interesting aspects of discussions that I've heard on death and mediums are like, you mean they can if our relatives are watching us always, does that mean they see us in the showers?
Would the young people are likely to want to see you in the shower now?
Yeah. Well, it's like I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if Rush Limbaugh's guardian, who was supposed to help him work through his transition, was gay? But I'm not sure that they have any kind of sexual orientation when they haven't got bodies. So, but maybe he's somebody who can remember being gay and might help him understand that. Given reincarnation, the chances are very good that Limbaugh is going to end up gay for a few incarnations to learn a little bit more about it. It's not punishment, I don't think. I mean, I could be entirely wrong. I could be waking up in the what do they call them? The fundamentalist Christians would be right, and I'm going to be plunging around in a fiery pool of flame, but I don't think so. Most of the things that one hears from all over the globe is when you're dead, you're in a wonderful place of peace and love, and you see the spirits of those that you love around you, and they help you understand what your life was all about. Something that we all wonder about when we're alive. One of the reasons, changing subjects a little bit, one of the reasons that I speak and learn things is I push energy healing and various other kinds of healing. I haven't thought of that today. Excuse me. I'm going to show you a little bit of energy healing. This is a form of energy healing called dynamite, which is a simplified, it's one of the many forms of using meridians and tapping. And I have found it very useful personally in a, it's worked for me before. And I've often said it is the prayer you don't make or the spell you don't cast that doesn't work. This is, and I just hadn't thought of this technique. So you put your hands in this position and you say, I have a problem. And you say what the problem is. And my problem is that I have a head cold. My head is stuffed up. Then you say, but that can change. I want my head to be as clear as a bell right now. Then you tap on 4 sides of your body. You do it on the back of your neck, 5th cervical vertebrae, on your sternum. Let's see. I go 7 times. It's a mystical number. On the point, this is a meridian point where the crease in where your thumb meets your hand is, and you tap that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and then put your hands back together, and then breathe in. And you'll probably understand when I say breathe in through the top of your head and out through your feet. And before you do this, you're supposed to basically look at your symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10 and decide how severe it is, whether it's a headache or whether it's whatever. Look at it at a scale of 1 to 10. And then when you're done, you say, okay, is it as the way it was before? And then you do it again if you need to. So I have a cold, but that can change. I want the cold to go away right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And yeah, I wish I thought of that earlier. My head is much clearer. I don't know, can you hear it in my voice? It's do it one more time, A, because I want to feel even better, and the third time to show you. And it's like, I have a head cold, but it's going away, but that can change. The head cold's going away now. I want to feel perfectly healthy. And I feel much better. I wish I had thought of that earlier. But it is the basis of that. It comes from Serge Kahili King, Huna shaman. And I think one of the critical things about that particular technique is you start out by saying, this is my problem. And then you say, but that can change. That way you don't, a lot of affirmations start out, I am beautiful. I accept myself. I think I'm wonderful. But your subconscious is, oh no, I don't. It's like, I haven't got a head, my head feels fine. No, I've got a headache. Don't let it argue. Don't give it. Things can change. Things always change. That you haven't always had a headache or always had a cold or always had whatever. And so it can happen. And then you make your statement. What do you want? What do you want? I want my head to be as clear as a bell. I want my head, I want to be feeling great. Now, it is important, and I think this is a very critical thing for most healing. Your subconscious does not tend to hear the word no or not. So if you say, I want to be not sick, I want to not be poor, I want to, then you're telling what your subconscious is going to hear is, I want to be poor, I want to be sick. Like, no. Don't figure out a way to phrase it so that the words no and not aren't in there. Figure out a way to say, I want what you want in a positive way, not a what you don't want way. And there is the Daniel Craig, I think, EFT, emotional freedom technique, which consists of tapping on the top of your head, over your eyebrows, at the corner of your eyes, under your nose, under your mouth, on your collarbones, and on the sides of your head. And these are all tapping various meridians. And while you do that, you say what's going on, and you say that you completely love and accept yourself. And the problems seem to go away. Very cool thing, but it takes a while, several repetitions, and Serge King wanted it to go faster. So he came up with the dynamite technique. There are many techniques. When I first started being interested in the occult, when I was in the 60s, they were developing therapeutic touch. Nurses found if they put their hands on their patients, they would heal better. Went on through quantum touch, silva mind control. Humans have energy in them. And when you put that energy through Reiki, putting more energies in the cells, your cells need kind of three things if you count moisture. They need nutrition, and they need they need to somebody has shared. I'm going to put this in the chat here. Chat. There it is. The Afterlife Revolution. And so if you look in, you click on chat, if I do it right, there is a link to the Afterlife Revolution, which I really don't know anything about, but it's a probably because I was talking about being dead and stuff. It does beg the question of how things work for people who caused a lot of harm in their lives. Yes, don't we all want to know that? Because we have, but yeah, So you can look up EFT, and you can look up Dynamind. Let's see if I can write that one down right here, Dynamind. I know that they have EFT, the emotional freedom technique, on the on YouTube, and that's very cool. The thing is, so I'm trying to keep notes so that I can tell the other people on the con what we can do. Where was I going? My question is, am I going back to talking about death, or am I talking about healing? These are both, they're two sides of the same story. When Craig was helping people deal with their phobias by tapping on their meridians, he was very surprised that not only were they changing their minds and losing phobias in an hour, things that had crippled them and changed and really hurt their lives for a long time. He found that they were changing other things, changing physical things like illnesses, and they were able to make that go away. And it's like, well, that's weird. Well, yeah, that's what happens. I deal with the American Society for Dowsers, and they discover now the dowser, the minute you have accepted one thing, as they say, a little crack lets in a little light. Once you're open to some of it, you then want to figure out whether or not it works. What are these other things that are poo-pooed? Will they work too? And some of the things work and some of the things don't. Well, gee, some medications work for a given person and some don't work for another person. So it's a thing that you need to experiment. We need to treat it like science and learn about it and study it, and not pretend that it doesn't exist, or that you can do anything. You can't do anything. There are things that work and things that don't work, and if you want it to work well, you have to learn how to do it. Much of this has to do with getting into the right wavelengths in your head. I know the dowsers talk a lot about alpha rhythms and theta rhythms and this, that, and the other, which is important. You got to keep track of those things. It's nice to have a nice scientific thing to put on it. The whole concept of different wavelengths, I think, is going to help us a lot with dealing with reaching other worlds. We're probably just vibrating at different frequencies. I saw today, I love science. I saw that they have now levitated a tray using just light. It's like, all right, keep working on it. Science magic will come together at some point. And I think that would be good for us. So we need to not be flaky. We need to actually work on magical stuff in a way that isn't frivolous, isn't going to leave us there's a lot of people who try magic and it doesn't seem to work for them. And I would like to have $5 for everybody who I've talked to now, or go to their house and their look on their shelves and say, oh, books on anything from dowsing to energy healing to whatever. And it's like, oh, so you're interested in magic? And they say, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. It's because whoever throws away a book. Turns out that they tried it and it worked. And they're afraid they were perfectly willing to play with it when it was simply something they were playing with, but they didn't want the responsibility of dealing with it if it actually works. You think it's of course it works. Why would people all over the world keep doing it? Why would all over the world people do this stuff if it didn't work? You wouldn't get in trouble with love spells if they didn't work. The reason you get in trouble with love spells is they're stupid and they work. Isn't that a sad thing? All of the stuff. But if you have something that helps you get a job, or you have something that helps you organize your life, nobody's going to think it's like, well, it is coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in magic. Although I would say I don't believe in magic, I use it. You shouldn't be trying to play with it, but you should be learning how to do it in a way that it will work for you. And I like healing. I like the fact that energy does. I've done a lot of, one of the things that I work with runes. I do a little divination with it because tossing rune sticks works. I do a lot more. Almost daily, I use something called Runevalder, which was developed by Rodney Cox, who, I should get him. Let me write that down. Get Rod Cox. He's trying to figure out how to get control of the powers of the universe. I'm not quite. I don't want that much control. I just want to be able to make my life better. But he developed Runevalder, and it's using the energy of runes. Basically, these symbols tap into the energies of a lot of things in the world. And the technique is not unlike in Reiki. They have symbols which are basically Japanese based, and they put them in you so that you can channel energy into the cells of the body and it can heal. Because if you don't have enough energy, and there's a lot of things that suck energy out of you these days, you can't heal very well. And so if you give people more energy, they heal. So Rod has come up with a system. He found himself, he was a rune user and also a Reiki master, and he found out he felt himself trying to put runes into Reiki, and he thought that was inappropriate. So he did what any good druid shaman would do. He went into a trance and went off to talk to Odin, who gave him this technique for downloading the runes into people's energy fields, which I describe as being like, do you remember the old radios in cars where you pushed a button and you could program in your favorites, and you push a button, it would go directly there? Well, with Runevalder, you draw or say the name of the rune, and that energy is suddenly flowing where you direct it, which makes magic really easy. I describe it as giving chainsaws to children. It's perhaps too easy. Reiki, they say, is safe. All you're doing is putting energy in, and it's not going to hurt anybody. If you're trying to take care of your athlete's foot and you're putting energy into your foot, but you have cancer starting and you didn't even know about it, it's going to go and deal with the cancer. Reiki has its own way of dealing with things. Runevalder does what you tell it to, which, as long as you understand what the runes mean, because the runes have meant about the same thing for 2,000 years, and they will do what they are essentially programmed over 2 millennia to do. For instance, it takes about 5 minutes to do this attunement, which is what they call it for both Reiki and Runewalder. And the day after I attuned one woman, it was an SCA event, Penzic, which is our big one. She was from Florida, and Penzic is in Western Pennsylvania, and she was listening to the radio carefully because there was a hurricane headed right for her section of Florida, and she had to know whether she had to pack her tent and head back down there to do repairs. But she had just gone to a workshop and gotten the Runewalder attunement. So I gave her, and she didn't know she didn't know the runes yet. You can get it and then look up the runes later, which she hadn't done yet. She had the handout sheet, and she did dowse. So she pulled out her pendulum and held it over the sheet and had it, okay, is this the rune I should send? Is this the rune I should send? Is this the rune I should send? And use send the working symbol, and sent protection down to her house. And then when the news said, that the hurricane had gone through, she called her next door neighbor, and and she said, how's my house? And her next door neighbor said, the hurricane went right down our street. Your house is the only house on the entire block that hasn't taken serious damage. You had a tree, it fell in the backyard, it didn't hit anything. Excuse me, I've got to go and work on my house. This is what somebody who doesn't know how it works yet can do it. She sent protection, and so what she did the next day, she came to me and she said, these are the runes I used. Are they the right ones? And the 2 runes were 2 protection runes and the home rune. So she had simply said, tell me which ones to use. Which is why a lot of people, when they're doing workings, will approach a higher power and say, please help direct this for the best good of all involved. Because sometimes we don't know information that would help us. That is why so many people work with various deities, whether it is the Christian God, who in the manifestation of a loving Jesus is a nice guy. The biblical Yahweh, or he who must not be named, is not such a nice guy. He basically your Thunder Mountain deity, who had his chosen people he took care of, and he didn't care about anybody else. So that was, I like Jesus's father in heaven a lot better than the biblical Yahweh, but or any god you're dealing with. You can be dealing with Odin, you can be dealing with Shiva, you can be dealing with the Kame of the Shinto. You can, but if you're asking for extra help, the whole concept of divination, which is another thing that when I was working on the programming and scheduling, I tried to get an even balance between magic and manifestation, healing, divination, and spiritual practices. Did I say that right? Did I put that twice? And with sprinkling of folklore and anything else that might be appropriate, that might help us get a handle on this. And that's what we're trying to. Divination, I do apologize for not finishing my sentences. Divination is going to the divine. It's going to other sources to get more information when you've exhausted the sources that you have on Earth. Don't pull out your rune sticks or your tarot cards until you've already Googled. I mean, there's a lot of good, easier ways of getting information. And but yeah, I believe in divination. I believe in alternative or complementary. We prefer the term these days, complementary and alternative healing practices. You don't turn your back on a vaccine if you can. But herbs, I mean, this is me drinking coltsfoot tea because I have discovered that coltsfoot tea will basically act like Benadryl, except it doesn't make you sleepy. So isn't that great? The more herbal things I try, the more I discover the power that is in herbs. So healing, I think we should teach as much of that as possible, because in the modern world, especially with the modern American health system, the ability to heal ourselves and each other when we can't afford to go get whatever treatment is available through the modern American medical system is incredibly useful. So I will teach as much healing techniques as possible. I will teach divination techniques as much as possible. I will freaking combine techniques, which is cool. We have ways of manifesting. Refill my tea. But I was hoping for tonight, and I'm not seeing a lot of people unmuting themselves, is that people would say what they want. Okay, very direct question.
Jessica, I think we've all been being too polite to interrupt you. You've been on a roll.
I'm sorry, I don't leave good pauses. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Would somebody have requests, questions, suggestions? Jenny?
Yes. One of the things, the way I've learned is by some reading, a lot of listening to people recount their own experiences with things. I would love to be in a place where people are sharing how they did this, or what they did this time and the result it gave, or something of the sort. So maybe if you want to have a theme sometime and everybody gives their own stories of what dealt with that theme.
That's was kind of what I was hoping for tonight, but unfortunately, due to having lost track of what day it was, thank you for long weekends, I didn't get the announcement out in time. So maybe I will do that again. I think next week is too soon. I will try and have a really cool guest for next week.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's a great thing.
Necessarily with a guest, a special guest of any kind, but
yeah,
kind of a round table.
Yes.
Or a tea table or something.
Yes. Well, tell me again. You said it well, and I want to write it in the notes well.
I'd like to hear people recounting their own stories of some magic they worked, some spell they did, or some manifestation they made, and what the results were. Because that's a lot of how I have cobbled together my own learning of how to do these things.
That is a useful idea. I'm reminded, does anybody know Robin Wood? She did the Robin Wood tarot deck. Great artist. And she was taught, she married a guy who she thought was a big, powerful magic user. He turned out to be a loser. And every time she asked him something, he'd say, you go try it for yourself and figure it out. So she ended up learning a great deal about magic from a guy who knew jack shit. He talked a good game, but he made her figure it out herself. Oh, and I'm going to mention what you put in the chat. Turmeric tea for pain from inflammation, and you know, make a tea in hot water.
Yes.
And that sounds useful for anybody who has pain from inflammation.
Mhm.
And how many resources tell you how to make it work, but not what to do if it works too well, or if you get unexpected results by yet any type of magic spell technique that somebody's written about.
I was thinking, you mentioned the people who stop using it when they have tried it and it worked.
Yeah,
They're afraid of what happened and they don't know how to handle it.
yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
I saw Henry's
Yes.
big flash. Henry, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just going to add the addendum that I do love that not just give us the recipe, find out, you know, going along with that analogy Jen was saying, is give us those results like how do we work the after effects, you know, or the lack thereof, either way. I think that would be a great class or discussion.
You're right. And you don't sound like a Henry. I think there's more than one of you behind that name. It is a good it's a good idea. I am reminded that when I'm teaching Runewalder, the last step, you know, do you know what the tools you're using do? Do you know how to call up the power? Do you know how to send it off? And the final step is cleaning up afterwards. The final step is making sure that you crossed your T's and dotted your I's and that you haven't left wild magic sitting around.
Mhm.
That there is, and I'll tell you this, quite honestly, there is nothing like raising power and then not doing anything with it. I hope this is not insulting to the Wiccans out there, but I've seen them do it too often. Power raised and not used, the energy gets stagnant. And just like water that's not running, you get a swamp instead of a stream.
Or attracts feeders.
Who was that? That Arkansas?
Bisville. It attracts feeders.
It
Critters
does.
that yeah. One of the things I did. Yeah, one of the things I did in psychic, you know, astral critter removal, you know, attachments type of class. And one thing I made a point is now that you got pulled it out, now that you got rid of it, you got to heal this person and help this person. You know, sometimes it's trauma. They may need a real doctor. Maybe they need a psychiatrist, a therapist, anything, because because all it is an open wound. If you don't patch it up, critters come right back and are worse than before.
Right.
And I see people as healing people over and over again. That's a problem. And then I start seeing people who are the healers end up being vampires themselves. And it's like, how do you know the difference?
It's important.
It's yeah.
I used to see kids in college who would get ridden by other spirits. There would be a spirit, you know, wandering, a ghost or something, and they'd be wandering by and found somebody who was not happy in their own body, and they would take over. And these people would have blackouts, and they would be told by their friends what they'd done. They didn't remember. And they would finally say, well, wait a minute, the girl on the 5th floor, she knows shit like this. So, and I could cast the spirit out. But if you freaking left the door wedged open, another one's going to come in. That's just
Exactly.
that you've got to, if you've got a psychic wound, you have to close it. If you've got a hole in the aura, you have to heal it. So, and then they hear about us, don't they?
Yes.
They find us because like, oh, well, they do that weird stuff.
No, in my case, they don't. Yeah, there's too many people in competition. What I deal with is who are vampires and who get their sycophants that get addicted to the healing. They get hit with a frequency that is not healthy for them. It gets rid of the problem, but it also amps them up, and they think, "Oh, I got all this energy." No, you just got a bit of high frequency that's just going to make you bleed out faster for the vampire.
Yeah.
Am I heard? No. And the thing is, dealing with sociopaths and that thing is, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, if there's a group of people who support that, there's nothing that I can do verbally, sensibly to fix that. I just have to leave and let go. So it's the thing is know when to shut up and then come up and pick up the pieces after if anybody will let you. If your name hasn't been drugged through the mud with people who don't know anything, which is
Well, people need to want to be fixed.
There's that.
that's true. And a lot of people love the addictions and the intentions and the cyclic behavior. And the patient has to be as much of interested in being healed as the healer wants to heal. If it's people who are playing in the with the vicious psychological cycles, yeah, no, you can't fix those. And
No.
that's where it's important to say, okay, this is the time I get my sticky fingers out of this,
Mhm.
because all it does is bring drama I don't need.
Or perhaps
Yep.
having an ill effect on others, you can take the angle of shielding others from the ill effects as opposed to trying to heal the person who's refusing the healing.
Well, especially if you're
Oh, I've done that.
if you're empathetic, you can take quite a bit of their pain on unnecessarily.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a time you got to learn to protect yourself from that. I've been in a room full of vampires and I shut them all down
Yeah.
because I literally won't let them feed off of me, my friends, and innocence. And they know who it. Sometimes it takes them a while to figure it out. It's me, but what are they going to say? It's like I caught you. They
Right.
don't dare deal with me. Do I get an invite to their shenanigans again? Nah.
Do you miss it?
But
No.
yeah. But if you stick a sucker on one of my friends, I have some nasty little games I play. But that's for another story.
Yeah, you scare me. I'm
Maybe-
not gonna sleep too well tonight.
Maybe would have you on a panel sometime.
Sure.
If you wanted, if we're going to have a panel talking about stuff like that, what panel would you be willing to come on to? One on vampirism, one on dealing with BSers?
I don't have a problem with either one. If you want me to talk about aftermath healing or dealing with people or critters
Good
or
word.
beings that are negative, there's vampires both spirit and in people, and what it's also depending on the planes you're working with or places and things, but a lot of it depends on what people pieces after. If they people or critters or beings that are negative, there's vampires both negative spirit and people, and what it's also depending on the planes you're working with or places and things, but a lot of it depends on what people answer things. People or critters or things that are negative.
Tripicon, I think we're getting feedback from the Facebook Live feed. There's a delay.
Thank you. I'll see if I can do something about that. Yeah, I think that's what it opened in a different envelope. Okay. Cool. I like that.
Yeah, and
Channel on aftermath.
not all negative things are evil. It's just and not all these critters are sentient.
Mhm.
I know we don't
Yeah.
have much time left, but how do you know someone's a vampire?
How do I know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would I know?
How would you know?
Could I
Okay,
answer that one and then you add to it? I would say that
Sure.
if you are hanging with anyone and you feel a lack of energy after each time you deal with them, they're a vampire. So that's how I would say you would tell. What would you say, Arkansas?
Well, that's one thing, and sometimes they get you to emote differently than what you're used to. For example, some vampires are party clowns. They get you to be giddy instead of finding joy, and you're having a great old time, and then when the party's done, they sucked everybody dry, and everybody's going home. I don't feel happy anymore, but I'm really addicted to the charisma of this person. That's one example. Sometimes it's just people who vampires have multiple techniques, and it really depends on what they're doing. Most just kind of come out with like a vampiric sucker, and they just attach to some part of your body that has some anchored trauma and things that you never pay attention to, and they feed on it. And sometimes it's like a part of your body ends up feeling worse and worse and worse, and there's no medical reason for it. That's that's one of those things where it could be a critter or a person, and you can get rid of it yourself if you deal with the trauma and shut the feed down. Getting the sucker out, you can do it with your own hands, your own muscle tissue. You don't need psychic energy because actually the strength of your muscles create yang energy. It's how to control yin or force framed energy. So your own hands, they cut some people, some healing modalities, golden gloves or whatever. You can actually tear it out. The thing is to light up your body. Make sure you own your own body, and then you pull it out. But I could give a 2-hour lecture on this.
Well, you just said the magic words. We're going to ask you to. I'm going to be back in touch with you and see.
Yes, that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
I think that something on the vampires attaching to old trauma points is, I think that's a really good. See, and this is where I get greedy. I want to have it now. I want to have it on one of the Wednesday nights.
Tell me more.
Right away, and not save it for November.
Yeah.
Or maybe both. Why not both?
I do have a video or Defense Against the Dark Arts out there that part of that.
Put a link up to it?
Sure, I'll be glad to. One moment.
That would be great. Okay, as we are getting close to the end, I'm going to ask everybody else, does anyone else have something that they can suggest that they would like me to seek out for topics, or things that you'd like to, things or people, topics, discussions? Please
If you know of anyone that does flower magic, not herbs, but flowers, I'm looking for
Yes,
someone that has researched flower magic based on old myths, traditions, cultures, color symbology, all of that. I do that, but I have yet to find any good resources for it beyond my own experiences.
Interesting.
okay. In order to get
And
back to
beyond
you,
Victorian,
I'm getting voice. Is that Henry? Who's
it's
saying
Angela. Angela.
that? Angela, okay. Angela, so I want to get back to you. Yeah, I will look for, I know some people who make flower essences. I've talked to flowers. I don't,
Would this be like marigolds at the Day of the Dead, for instance, or is that part of that concept?
It would be, because that is a particular culture with their marigolds and whatnots. Basically, I'm trying to stay away from Victorian flower language. I want to go further back. I'm trying to find like native cultures or, not just European Victorian languages. I know there's more out there, but everything has revolved around the Victorian meanings of flowers, and I'm trying to stay away from that.
Right.
There's Bachmann Flower Essences. It was a book that came out like 35 years ago.
Bach's flower remedies are wonderful. I'm thinking of a myth. It's an Irish myth where a healer got too powerful and they killed him, and his sister cried. This is Celtic, I think Irish, and so flowers grew up out of his body, and there are like 200 of them, and each one of those flowers treats a different part of the body or body system. I have to go look it up. That's not.
I know there are hundreds of stories like that, and I've been digging, and all I found is the traditional, like Zeus and Persephone and things like that, which is great. But I know there are other cultures out there that have stories like that.
There's a Sumerian tale of Enki and his granddaughter. Apparently he keeps on stumbling onto his daughters and not knowing who they are, and gets kind of happy with them. His oldest wife gets hit with the last one and have him eat the seed and whatever, and out of them came boils that Mother Earth took and actually grew for medicinal plants. They were and other type of medicine, and they're called with different children's names. I don't have a good link to it right now. I know Wikipedia has something on it, but it was Enki and Ningharsad working with seven plants of some sort. And I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that is it for tonight. I'm afraid I was not as focused as I would like to. Please do, if you come up with any topics you would like to hear more about, whether it is flower magic or rituals and things. Okay, we have someone who wants African-American spirituality and hoodoo. Yeah, this is one of the problems we've had is, since we started out with a whole bunch of white people, we've had a hard time collecting people from other backgrounds, because they think that we're not prizing their wisdom. And oh gosh, yes we are. Please come and talk to us.
Yeah.
We don't want to what is it?
They got published by the Well.
Steal your culture. We just want to benefit from it. We want to hear your wisdom.
What would
Well,
be a good email address to have certain people write you if they were interested in presenting something?
Oh, well, yeah, we've got, I don't know, Kathy, do we have that up yet on the website?
The submission form
Yeah.
we do have the submission form up on the website.
You can always put it on
And
Facebook and put something on there.
if you just want to get in touch with somebody to kind of have a conversation before you put in an actual proposal.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the email in the chat.
More so just picking some of our presenters' brains and seeing if they were interested in presenting or, you know, speaking on these Wednesday nights. And if so, a way to contact you guys.
But you can always contact me on Facebook, Chipicon. And you can always contact us by going to the Facebook Changing Times, Changing Worlds page. Because we'd like to have more community involvement. We're fascinated. We know we're fascinated by this stuff. We'd like to tailor it more to the interests of the other people who are coming.
So just to make sure everybody sees, I did put the email address in the chat.
And for those of you who are who are seeing this on YouTube later, the address is CTCW programming, all one word, at gmail.com. So if you have ideas or questions or are sending out tentative feelers, do that. But we want this to be not our con, but our con, all of our con. And if it's any subject, whether it's divination, whether it's magic, whether it's healing, whether it is alternate spiritualities, with folklore, anything, if it's in the spooky foo area, let's go for it.
I like that.
You like spooky foo? Yeah, that one's from, I think, Raven Caldera. But yeah, well, supernatural is now associated with the two tall brothers and the old car. But so I'm going to call it end to it tonight and try and have a better, I think a clearer head will bring a better class for next or something. Next Wednesday show. How do people here tonight think of the name Otherworldly?
I like it.
For this show.
Yeah, I liked it initially.
I think it
I'm
fits.
starting to think that it is separating from the regular world, from the mundane world, if you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the opposite of mundane?
Right.
Otherworldly, maybe. So
I like the word uncanny, but it gets associated with the uncanny valley in films too much.
oh God, it's all been taken. Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and tell your friends, because word of mouth is our best way of advertising, and be in touch with us.